This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
It's time for the mailbag. Time for the listeners to talk to me, and I get to respond, and we get to have a lot of fun. And we've got a very special voicemail that I'll be playing at he'll be the very first one that I play when we start the voicemails. A little bit different than usual, so you're going to want to stick around for this one, guys. Very special one. So I'm saying that kind of somberly, if that's a word. So anyway, not to spoil anything, but you're going to want to stick around for the voicemail section, which is on the second half of the show. So that said, I want to thank all the patrons who are a priority here in the mailbag. We've got a lot of emails. I really don't know if I'm going to get to them all, but I know I will get to all of the patrons' emails. And the way that you can guarantee your email is read and prioritized is by joining Patreon. So patreon.com/WWE podcast. Along with everything ad-free, you get prioritization in the mailbag. Now, I want to thank Michael Severson. Michael, thank you so much for joining us here on the WWE podcast. I hope you enjoy all of your ad-free content. All right, so let's start with a patron. And again, guys, very special voicemail coming up. We're going to start with, I think I have everything organized by now, and I don't. I wing so much of this, I have to say, guys. If it sounds like I'm not organized, it's because I'm not. All right, let's start with a patron, and this is Freeman. And he says, for a start to address the warm drinks and ice thing, I can safely say that in the UK, we get ice and soft drinks. Most of the time I have to ask for it without ice, as I personally don't like it. And I know a few people that don't put the ice in. Ice rarely goes into alcoholic beverages, but there was a trend in the mid-2000s where people were putting ice in cider. Beer depends on what it is, but lagers serve chilled, but draft ale is typically served at whatever temperature the cellar is. So in the UK, that's cold. Also, to be clear on the language, going out for a pint just means going out for a drink. Don't care what you're drinking. If you spent all night drinking from a bottle, you would still say you went out and had a few pints. Well, so I appreciate that, the clarification. And then this is the UK, right? So there's other countries that and regions that do things differently. It's nice to hear that in the UK, you guys at least are on the side of your beverages being cold. I'm a fan of that. But as far as saying you went out and had a few pints, yeah, that's not what we say here in the United States. It just sounds weird to us. Pints is not a unit of measure here. You can buy things by the pint, but you don't ever. I've never heard. I've been out drinking like hundreds of times in my life, especially from like 18 to 28. I mean, it was just a blur of a time. But that said, I've never in my life heard anyone say to me, yeah, we went out for a few pints last night. Like we went out for drinks last night, or we got hammered last night, or whatever. So it's just, that's, I guess, a little bit of a difference there. But all right, to get back on track with Fastlane over, I thought I would give my thoughts, and it was solid, pretty good. I don't think anyone or anything else needs to be said, which is a shame. And I was hoping for something more from the event, but all I got was good matches and some nice storytelling with no drama to come of it, other than the press conference. So let's talk about that. I don't care that they were intoxicated during the press conference. If anything, that reinforces how much their characters care about the belts, as they immediately celebrated. Then on Raw, Jace was making his little yeets and things when Cody was talking, making me wonder if this is just a clever move to humanize the characters by making them more relatable. As who doesn't get messed up levels of drunk in the span of an hour before a major part of your working day and then describe them as libations? I'm on board in theory, but Cody ruined it, describing drinking as libations. That word got to me. The definition of libation is offering a drink to a deity. So does he think of himself as a god? Well, this is just part and parcel and very consistent with Cody Rhodes choosing words that a thesaurus would only pick up when he could just use plain language in order to make himself seem smarter. This is a Cody Rhodes staple. This isn't just WWE. In AEW, he did the same thing, and I think it's part of the reason why the fans turned on him in AEW, which I can't wait for, hopefully, it to happen in WWE. but it's just another way. But I also understand maybe he can't outright say, drinking. But at the same time, we had Drew McIntyre talking about a shot and a pint and going out drinks. So maybe that's out the window. Yeah, it's just Cody being Cody, trying to sound smart by using words that are unnecessarily, advanced. So and it is annoying, isn't it? But yeah, I mean, I don't know if them getting hammered is actually a representation of how much they care. In fact, I would actually say on the other end of things, it may be the opposite, because you work for a company that allowed you this opportunity, and you're going to jeopardize the company as far as how you represent them in a public setting by being wasted on air. Not good. I mean, Jim Ross, if you remember back this far, I think it was WWE 12 or 2K12, or there was no 2K12. I think it was WWE 12 when they switched from SmackDown versus Raw in the THQ series. And him and Ric Flair got hammered before that event with THQ and talking about the game. And it was a press conference about it. And they ended up in part being fired because of that. So it's not something, especially in the PG era, you could say, well, it's them showing they care. If that's the case, then applying that principle anywhere else, you'd be fired. Would any of us go to work and say, oh, I just care so much about this job after doing such a, say you got a big project done, right? You did well, you captured a big client, but then you showed up to work hammered and you're like, wow, this is just showing how much I care. So there is a bit of a downside to that too, right? But I understand what you mean. Anyway, come Raw. I don't know if you saw, but I posted a capture of the crowd that the camera focused on for Cody Rhodes' intro in the Discord. It seems like the most excited people in the crowd were a guy angrily crossing his arms and another person checking their phone. And this was the very start of the night when everyone's meant to be pumped. Do you think this is an indication that the Cody Rhodes hate is spreading across the fan base, or do you think it's only a small number of us who coincidentally listen to the same podcast? Well, hey, if I can start a movement and I have that kind of power, let's turn Cody heel. I'm never of the advocation to fire him. He's a hell of a talent. He's just miscast, in my opinion, a little bit like Roman Reigns, but masked better because he has a dad that was beloved, and he wasn't originally selected as the chosen one. He's one of the first major stars to come back from AEW and be anointed automatically a major star, which was still kind of weird, and people don't talk about that. But also the fact that he's a much better promo than Roman was. So there's a lot of masking going on, but I think there's still a lot of, and he has a hell of an entrance song. But ultimately, do I think it's something that is the start of a turn on Cody? Until the audible sounds change, until I hear the crowd change, I don't really care what they zoom in on, to be honest. It's about the noise. What do I hear? Is it boos? Is it cheers? Is it apathy? Is it, what is it? To me, that is more important than them maybe just accidentally zooming in on a couple of people that were just, not happy or disengaged on their phones. When I first wrote into the podcast, I asked about Shinsuke, asking if you saw him going anywhere in his future or if he was stuck in the mid-card. You said that there was no way he was moving anywhere at the time. Just wonder if recent events have changed your mind. No. And I say that still, despite the brilliance of the resurrection of Shinsuke's character, because Shinsuke still, now he's back to Ricochet. That's a fall. I'm sorry, that's a fall from grace from Seth Rollins. It just is. And until they show me otherwise, that he's consistently in the main event, I have no hope that he would be, at this point, still a world champion. Now he may be IC or US champion. That's been his calling card over the last several years, even before he was hot. So, but no, it hasn't really changed my opinions, despite how good this has all been with Seth. To talk about the Io Sky's reign as champion, I think it feels hollow because of exactly what she is champion of. All the matches we have are between Io, Flair, and Asuka. No one else seems to exist, which makes the championship rather insular and not that impressive. Compared to Raw, where we have multiple female wrestlers all having their own matches, We even got a match between Valhalla and Maxine Dupree, which I could never imagine happening on SmackDown. So I say the trade from Raw to SmackDown, if it ever happens, should actually be in the women's division. This would add some spice to the women's division on SmackDown and give Io some time to shine. Maybe Zoe Stark would have a good chance over on SmackDown, but I would be interested in your thoughts on a female transfer. Well, that's fine. I have no problem with a female transfer and a female trade. That's totally on the table. Absolutely. Zoe Stark wants to move. Io Sky wants to move. Sure. But if you're saying that this is going to be an equivalent trade of Jey Uso to Raw, no. I mean, you can't tell me that Zoe Stark is the equivalent move on Raw, like it just, or on SmackDown. It doesn't equate. The math doesn't add up. But generally, as a separate trade outside of the Jey move to Raw, sure. Speaking of the women's division, I want to address Becky Lynch, Tegan Nox. First, Tegan Nox reminds me too much of a Disney Channel teen TV star, like she's pretending to do the role, not actually in the role. I don't understand why she's getting such a push, and as I don't see her having the talent for it. As this was reflected into the match with Becky, as this was one of the most boring matches we've had. The crows were so silent you could hear a pin drop. The match itself was the same 3 moves repeated over and over. By the end, I could barely watch. I know this match was to put over new talent, but the talent that has to exist, and I got the feeling from this that Tegan isn't ready to move up, and maybe they need to focus their energies elsewhere. Yeah, it didn't exactly ring as a memorable match, and this has been. At the same time, here's what I'd say. On the positive side of things, sure, it wasn't exactly a emotionally invested match by the fans, but how could they be? That said, Tegan Nox coming out of this is better for it. It didn't hurt Becky. Becky's been in a rut for a while, many months actually. Becky Lynch is a talking point for a lot of things, but Tegan Nox is better than going in. Like, people are starting to get used to who she is, recognizing the name, and that's the upside. Finally, Judgment Day's story seems to be heating up. They're drawing direct parallels now over multiple shows for the past month between Judgment Day and the Bloodline. Originally, this was subtle with them bringing up the comparison to how Jay was treated within the Bloodline and how Dom was treated within the Judgment Day. But with Rhea directly challenging the Bloodline on SmackDown, subtly seems to have gone out the window. But there was one thing people aren't talking about. On the Raw, where Dom was getting chewed up for not having his belt anymore, why did Jay come out? He is directly against the Judgment Day and has no stake in the title being discussed. And he owes Dom nothing. Yet to prevent Dom's verbal harassment and beatdown, he enters the ring as a distraction and then attacks Rhea and protects Dom with his words calling out Rhea's actions. And as time goes on, I see Jay becoming more and more protective over Dom. So with the Bloodline, JD's stories being mixed more and more, what's your thoughts on some kind of older brother relationship forming between Dom and Jay? Well, Dom and Jay, I don't see it yet. I see what you mean. I think it was just kind of an accident or an unintended relationship connection between the two. I'm not going to put any stock into it until I see further evidence. Dom and Jay are on opposite ends of the spectrum right now. And Jay also doesn't want to be involved in any group at all. So, I mean, I know he's in a tag team, but 2 is a tag team, 3 is a crowd, as they say. So I don't think that's something yet. All right. Freeman, let's roll. Thank you so much. All right. Let's talk to... where's our next patron? I know I got more. Actually, that's a voicemail from Miller. We'll get to you, my friend, in a few moments. But I know we also have some people who have directly messaged me on Patreon, and we're going to get to those individuals right now. And very interesting, in my opinion. The wrong outcomes in Fastlane. Have we spoken about WWE putting little to no production value in their PLE sets anymore? It used to be awesome stage buildups, but now we settle with 2 F1 cars sitting in front of the stage, no different to Raw or SmackDown. Also, a betting company I use in Australia listed Bobby and the Street Profits as the Suit Profits. Unsure if they're called this, but also thought it was quite clever. Yeah, it is clever. I don't hate it. It's better than calling them Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits. They do need a name, and I have no problem with that. Now, as far as, and also it's better than the Hurt Business 2.0. Yeah, I've noticed that too, that the stages for the PLE events have been lackluster at best. And, it is it's not something that, I put a whole lot of time into thinking about. Does it hurt the show? No. And actually, I know why they do it. It's a money saver. I mean, do you know how much money goes in? If they have to customize a set for every PLE that's used only for a matter of hours, that's a lot of man hours, a lot of material. They have to ship it, get it delivered, custom. Like, that's a lot of money. Like, I would imagine tens and tens of thousands of dollars to customize each set. And so I think it's just a money savings. That's really all it is. All right. And thank you so much. Let's talk to another patron here. And let's talk to Efren Chavez. And he says, hello again. With all the main roster stars heading to NXT this week to compete against AEW Tuesday night, do you think that we would ever see another similar event to what took place in April of 98 where DX invaded WCW during the Monday Night Wars? And if so, would you have the Judgment Day take the place of DX to show dominance in the two brands? Just a weird thought, but let me know. Well, sorry to disappoint you, but no, I don't see that happening. The reason is, back in those days, WCW was kicking WWE's ass in ratings. And they did it for, 82, 83 weeks? Famously, Eric Bischoff's podcast name. And so WWE needed to do things that were off the wall, that were never done before. And they went to the Scope in Norfolk, Virginia. And WCW was invaded by the DX tank. I remember that going, oh my God, they're actually there? That's so crazy. Kind of making it almost a crossover show. And WCW ended up shutting the gate to the entrance of the arena. And I remember it was a big deal. I don't think that'll ever happen because WWE doesn't want to outwardly portray that they need to do anything on air with AEW. To them, it would be an admission that they need to glom on to AEW's audience in order to surpass them. Like it would be an admission of failure if WWE were to do that to AEW. So WWE is going to live in their own bubble. They'll continue to sign stars where they see fit that have their contracts expire in AEW. No, it's a different time. It's not the true Monday Night Wars as they used to be, where WWE was actually getting their ass kicked. I'll just say that. All right. This is from Frank. He says he's a patron member. Let me talk to you. First, I got a question of what was Paul Heyman and Roman's thoughts about getting Ava Reigns on the Bloodline? I feel like they're setting up war games for Cody, Jay, KO, and Sammy, and I feel as if Drew will join Judgment Day. They really need to figure out the women's division. They're making it out as a joke. If a woman attacks a man, then it should be full game. And would Gable, Otis, and Bronson Reed be a good team? So let me go in reverse. Gable, Otis, and Bronson Reed, they would be a good team, except it seems as if they are now placing Bronson Reed on a singles run, chasing the Intercontinental title. He's not going to be successful, but is a statement to the fans that, hey, yeah, we're ready to start moving this guy a little bit. As far as the women's division, yeah, it kind of comes and goes, doesn't it? Like the women's tag titles that are the most cursed titles in all of WWE, and Alba Fire and Dawn, I can't remember her first name. They are turning super dark and are going after the women's tag team titles, but they are a title I would not want if I was in the company. I just wouldn't. Now, setting up a War Games match with Cody, Jay, and Sammy and Ava Reigns on the other side, no. I don't think anyone else should join the Bloodline that's not actually a part of... Well, no, she would be. That's a good question, actually. I just completely crapped all over my own explanation. Let me reconfigure that. I don't have a problem with Ava Reigns being a part of the Bloodline, but I don't want her being involved in any matches against the men for so many reasons that I've already outlined of why men and women should not be competing in WWE rings and should leave each other alone. They could be setting up for War Games, but I actually don't want Roman in a War Games match. There's no stakes. The match makes no sense. given that 95, or not 95, maybe 80% of the match is meaningless until the bell rings. You can't eliminate anybody until the bell rings. So that whole, well, one team has an advantage. Well, no, they don't, because you can't eliminate anybody until the bell rings. So it's pointless. I don't want to hear it. All right? It's ridiculous. That part of it is the most egregiously stupid part of War Games. I understand the concept, 2 rings, a lot of action, fun. But the idea that the match can't start until the final person enters the ring, but there's somehow an advantage for a team, is preposterous, because you can't eliminate anybody until that final person enters the ring. It's so stupid. It just is. I know a lot of you love the War Games match, but that's a massive flaw for me. Now, do I think they're setting up for War Games? I hope not with Roman. Roman needs to get out of these gimmick exhibition matches. He needs to start defending the championship against people outside the bloodline. AJ Styles, for one. Randy Orton, he could be easily one upon his return. Of course, you could defend it against Cody Rhodes. You could defend it against, well, eventually The Rock. There is Seth Rollins still floating out there. I mean, there's so many guys that Roman Reigns has yet to work with. LA Knight, for God's sakes. So, no, I hope not. Keep War Games. If you want to do a War Games match and have a little fun in the ring, fine, but keep Roman out of it. Because that would also mean he's not defending his championship at Survivor Series, which can't happen. Oh, sorry, Frank, you sent me off. But thank you for the message. All right, let's continue with another patron here. This is Bad Fish. He says, hey, Matt, I just finished Drew's match on Raw with JD McDonough, and I got to thinking. The crowd still loves him. He continues to act like a babyface, and to your point earlier, we have no reason to be mad at Drew. He's totally in the right to be upset with Jay. The way he challenged Seth was babyface, but the way Seth handled it backstage showed more of a heel side to Seth. Could they be leading us the wrong way on purpose, and now Seth is the one who's going to turn heel? Personally, I would love to see either man turn heel, but they both have their upsides. What do you all think? Lastly, JD is entertaining as hell in the ring. He sells moves so well and is the only person to date to make the Crossroads look okay. Hope you all have a great week. Until next time, Badfish out. Thank you. I would agree. I'm glad you brought that point up about JD selling the Crossroads. He is the only one that can make it look halfway decent of, the sell of the opponent looking like they're being, devastated instead of Cody looking like he's taking the bump. Agreed. But he's the only one. I mean, even Finn Balor has at times taken it poorly, and that's not a shot on Finn. It's just a bad maneuver to make it. It's very difficult to make look good. You have to have a small, super athletic person, and JD fits that. But as far as Drew or Seth turning heel, or both, or one, or none, yes, one of them needs to. I still believe it's going to be Drew, because there's not as much momentum behind him as a babyface as there is Seth, and there's still money in Seth as a babyface champion. They still love his songs, his t-shirts. I think what would help Seth is not always be so jokey. Like, for example, he came out after a grueling, violent last man standing match, still but parading around, coming down in the ring, smiling, all this with his ridiculous outfits. And they're supposed to be obnoxious by nature. I understand that. But you just went through war. You told us that your livelihood is on the line. Shinsuke, threatened to take your family from you, that your children are going to be ashamed of you. And we're told you have such a severe back injury, yet he's coming out dancing, flaunting, nothing's wrong. Oh, I'm hurting. But what? It's almost like we were lied to about the back injury. I mean, I think it's legit, but at least sell it, bro. So I think Seth could benefit at times from being more serious and not coming out in such, just obnoxious outfits. But I think still him as a babyface, there's more money on that. Plus Drew as a heel is something we haven't seen in a long time. All right. Let's see. Let's talk to another patron. And it's Chris. Chris says, my girlfriend has a fun theory of what would happen at Fastlane with Money in the Bank. I'm interested in your thoughts. She said, what if Senor Money in the Bank briefcase doesn't have the contract and the original green briefcase is in the possession of JD? JD cashes in the contract briefcase against Seth, and Nakamura wins the title, causing more havoc between him and the Judgment Day. Unsure what the next Raw would look like, as JD holding the title would make no sense, but thought it would be a fun storyline of JD versus the rest of the Judgment Day and put Finn in a tough spot now that him and Damian lost the tag titles. Also removes the fake briefcase Damian has so they don't have to keep justifying when he's not using it. So, cool theory. I don't hate it. I think it's plausible, but I don't think it's likely. The reason is JD as champion in any context right now makes no sense. He's not in a position that people generally aren't connecting with him yet. He's new to the main roster. You don't want to do that yet. Also, it would imply that anyone who holds the briefcase can cash it in, even though you're not the one that won it. It's like having somebody write me a check, and on the check it says it's written out to me in my name. But then you take the check and you put it in your account. Well, that's not going to happen. You can't do that because it wasn't written to you. So it's the same thing with the contract. Whoever won it owns it. Even if it's in possession of someone else, that other person can't use the benefits of that contract because it's not in their name. It's not an open contract that if someone steals it, they can cash it in. If that was the case, you'd be having people chase Damian Priest around like it's the 24/7 title backstage and everyone's running single file after somebody, and you'd have Akira Tozawa going crazy for it, right? And R-Truth. But that's not the case. So that's probably out the window. But I do like your theory, and I have been on board with that too, of that purple briefcase not containing the contract, and it's still in the green one, and JD forgot to, or by design, just left the contract in the green one, and forgot to, or by design, didn't put it in the purple one. So when it's time for Damian to cash in, and there's nothing in the briefcase, not that they open it though. See, that's the thing. They also don't open it and check. The referee and ring announcer just assume it's there. It's just more of a symbolic cash in than an actual physical cash in, because they don't open it and go, oh, okay, yeah, the contract's here. You know what I mean? But I still think that's a possibility. And that furthers the tension between JD and Damian, where he screws up the cash in. Lastly, a theory I have is that if the contract is in Damian's briefcase, he cashes it in and wins at Crown Jewel, leaving only Finn and JD without gold. Rhea only wants gold in the Judgment Day, pushing Finn and JD out to do their own thing. Selfishly, I want Finn to be solo and have his own run outside the Judgment Day. Thanks. Yeah, me too. Finn's fine in the Judgment Day. I think he's been, in a way, resurrected in the Judgment Day, but he is a babyface through and through still, and I think the fans would take to him as a babyface very quickly, and that connection of JD and the tension with JD and Priest is ultimately going to be the downfall of also Finn and the Judgment Day. So, thanks, Chris. All right, and Michael Severson, you just joined, so let's get to your email as well. And Michael, who I did thank at the top of the show, said, I noticed last time you struggled with my last name. It's cool. Everyone does. It's pronounced Severson. Well, see, I already pronounced it wrong like 5 times. See, the problem is there's no A in your name, so I'm sure you get that a lot. Okay, Michael Severson. There we go. I won't forget. Anyway, just a random thought thrown out there. I've noticed in the past, WWE isn't afraid to borrow from other companies when it works best for the show. They borrowed Jericho for Stone Cold's show on Peacock, and a little more recently, they borrowed Mickie James, who was the women's champ for Impact, I believe it was, for the Rumble a year or 2 ago. So who's going to say they couldn't borrow Edge for Mania at WrestleMania 40? I realize it isn't probable, but it is possible. That's a good point, Michael. You know, that is a very good point. Now, I don't know if, since Edge is a bigger star, that they have more restrictions on what he can do, knowing that he has more value as a star, and therefore they want to make sure that he is more tied down exclusively to AEW. But that's a hell of an idea. That's a hell of an idea. But the only problem I have with that is it's possible with the examples you gave us. It's been done before. Not to the levels and star power of Edge. However, Impact is different than AEW. Impact is like basically a glorified independent show. I mean, they just are. And Jericho on Stone Cold's podcast, and that's also not in ring. That's kind of a side project. While it is a bit unprecedented, it's not in-ring borrowing for a night from AEW. That is the difference. And also, would Edge really want to do that and then go back to AEW? Or wouldn't he want WrestleMania 40 to be the end of his career? I mean, a lot of things to think about, but I appreciate the thought. Okay. Let's continue. Boy, a lot of emails, guys. Let's pick and choose here. DJ, we'll get to you in a minute. I know I usually start out with you, but I'm changing things up tonight. All right, let's talk to Chandler, and then we'll get to DJ. Chandler says, let me talk to you. I want to start this off with a question for everyone. Do you think Raw should go back to 2 hours? It seems more like a chore lately to get through Raw because 1 hour will always be something that's just completely random and just there to fill time. It's getting ridiculous how boring Raw is at some moments. So yeah, you can pose that to the general listening audience, but in my own opinion, I would love 2 hours of Raw. I also think that those that don't like the format can go to the 90-minute version on Hulu. It'll cut out commercials, and it gives you the gist of what happens on Raw, at least the most important stuff. It doesn't give you everything, but also they won't do it because of the revenue coming in for that third hour from sponsorships. So there's that. But okay, Ricochet is so painfully PG, it's hilarious. Quote, hey, you piece of crap. Like, come on, man. You can't think of something better to say than that. Yeah, I agree. That's the also the life of a PG era star right now. Yeah. I'm surprised he doesn't say holy moly, right? Or shucks. He does seem like that kind of guy. It is at times cringeworthy. Chad Gable's one of the best wrestlers on the roster right now. Any match he's put in, he puts on a show. We need to see him in an Iron Man match sometime soon. Yeah, but I would agree, except they haven't done an actual real Iron Man match, to my recollection, maybe since like Kurt Angle and Brock did it on SmackDown 20 years ago. And then before that, it was at Judgment Day 2000 when The Undertaker returned as the American Badass when The Rock took on Triple H. So I could be wrong about that. I think I've been corrected before, but it's been a long time since a true 1 hour Iron Man match has been implemented. But Chad Gable's an excellent candidate. Nia Jax just seems so clunky in the ring. I don't know if I'm over-examining because of the bad taste she left in my mouth, but she's not as smooth as everybody else. Well, yeah, she's not, but it has to do with her size. She's 2 to 3 times bigger than the women there. It's simple physics. She's going to be clunky because she's a large woman. She just is. I don't care if anyone, your body's shaming, you're calling her fat. She kind of is fat. She is. She's also got a larger structure as a whole, just naturally, but she's a large woman. She just is. That's not for better or for worse. In fact, I actually think it's been an asset to her generally because it has set her apart from the other women on the roster. Her matches feel different, even if they are clunky. She's a slower, more power-centric style, and I actually don't mind that. It's a different flavor of a match, but you're going to get clunky because of her body type. There's no way two ways about it. So, all right. So I pissed off somebody calling Nia Jax fat, but I mean, she comparatively to the women on the roster, like she is. She's a large woman. Even in general society, she's a large woman. It's not good or bad. It's just fact. I'm just observing what she is. And that's just what she is, which actually she's made the most of. So congrats to her. So that's it for this week. Sorry if these sentences don't make sense. I'm at work and my brain is fried. Yeah. Oh, I feel you, Chandler. I'm there with you too, man. I'm not at work, but I understand. All right. DJ Kuzmo says, hello, AEW and WWE podcast world. It's DJ Kuzmo back at it again. How about that? How about the new Undisputed Tag Team Champions of Cody and Jay? I was surprised that they are the new Undisputed Tag Champions. Like I mentioned in my predictions at Fastlane, the tag team title match, in my opinion, was mostly focused on the storyline of Judgment Day versus this, quote, Avengers formation of Cody, Jay, LA Knight, and John Cena. That's a great way to put it. They are an Avengers formation. That's a perfect way to put it. While the tag team titles take a back seat. Do you see that Cody and Jay remain the tag champs until either Crown Jewel, Survivor Series, or for the rest of the year? That's a hell of a question that I've been pondering. It's not going to be too long. It's definitely, I think, going to be dropped between now and January. I'd say at most you have until Rumble or even before Rumble, where Cody is able to take on Roman Reigns before WrestleMania if The Rock is locked in. The Rock is sucking up a kind of an important role this year for Cody or LA Knight. And it is what it is. I'm not complaining because The Rock and Roman needs to happen, but it's throwing everything else in haywire where if The Rock wasn't there, and again, it's not confirmed, but it pretty much is, right? Like it's probably going to happen. And you have LA Knight, you have AJ Styles, you have Cody Rhodes, you have all the guys I mentioned before, Randy Orton, you have Seth Rollins. There's so many guys he could work with. And there's no shortage of men he could work with this year. But so yeah, that's my timeline is by Rumble season. They've dropped it. And by the way, what is the season premiere in WWE World? I thought the WWE season never ends since they don't do show reunions like TV shows on cable and network TV. Just saying. Yeah, I mentioned this last night. I said that the WWE doing their quote season premiere is them just kind of following the crowd and getting in on the action of everything else, having a season premiere. And they tell everyone they're an episodic television show, the longest one, and they don't have season premieres. They also technically do have season premieres when it comes to their contracts, though, with the networks. So they do run from year to year, and they expire, as we've seen them go from USA to TNN to Fox and back to USA. Like, we've seen them in several networks. And so they do technically, you could say, have yearly, seasons. So it just doesn't feel like it. Also, with Triple H appearing this Friday on the season premiere of SmackDown, do you probably see Triple H announcing some sort of tournament exclusively for the tag teams on Raw, or rather on SmackDown, where the final two teams have a match either on the go-home show to Crown Jewel or at the event itself, where the winner is awarded the new tag team championships exclusively for SmackDown. Creative did this similar concept for Raw with the World Heavyweight Championship tournament, even though some wrestlers from SmackDown like Lashley, AJ Styles, Rey Mysterio, and I think Austin Theory competed in the tournament, well, of course, disrespecting the brand rules when there are no brand rules to begin with, but I digress. Yeah, I don't even want to get into the brand rules thing. It's been, violated for many, many, many years. Now, I don't think that's the case because Cody and Jay winning those tag team titles undisputed, the very purpose of them doing that was to, of course, further the Judgment Day's descent and tension, but also to allow Cody and Jay to come to SmackDown. And if you make exclusive SmackDown Tag Team Championships, then they are just demoted to just the Raw Tag Team Champions. And they also just recently, over the last couple of year and a half, united those belts. So it would make it feel a little bit diminished in their victory and cut the value of those belts immediately in half. It's too soon to do that. And the purpose, as I said, is for Cody to be able to work on SmackDown and come in close quarters with Roman Reigns. So, finally, when will Priest cash in his world title opportunity against Seth? Because to me, it should have happened right after the main event at Fastlane, like I mentioned. Then this past Monday night, what didn't make sense to me is that Priest attacked Seth from behind, but Dom had the briefcase. What the heck was he doing with the briefcase and not Priest? That's a great point. It was done to, why the hell, if Priest is going to attack him from behind, why didn't he do it with the briefcase and then cash in the briefcase? That extra step of having Dom come down really made no sense and created an unnecessary complication. But it was there to set up Drew trying to say he did the right thing by stopping Dom because that interfered with his business. So it was really about Drew and furthering Drew. That's why it was done. And when is that Raw to SmackDown trade happening, or did Creative forget just asking? Anyway, I have more to say, but I'll save it for next time. DJ Kuzmo signing off. It didn't happen yet. I don't think they know who the hell it's going to be. They just said at a future time. If I was SmackDown, I'd be like, hey, that was a major player and I don't get somebody back right away. How does that work? A player to be named later. It doesn't make any sense. So I don't think they know. All right. So, what we're going to do, guys, let's see here. So, I'll get to one more, and then I know I've got other emailers here, and I may have to save them for a future podcast, maybe on Sunday night. So I'm going to have to save some of these, guys. I'm just going to get to one more email. If I didn't get to your email tonight, that means that I simply am putting it off until next show on Sunday. All right. Let's talk to J.R. Garcia. He says, "Hey guys, first and foremost, I want to thank you for putting out a ton of great content year after year. I've been listening to your show for about 3 years. Anyway, I'm excited for attending my first WWE event with my wife and my 5-year-old son this coming Friday night at SmackDown in Tulsa at the Box Center. I heard Cena, the Tribal Chief, and Rey Mysterio will all be in attendance, as well as the wise man to counsel, the Tribal Chief, Paul Heyman. I've been a lifelong WWE fan ever since the early 90s when I was 5 years old. My father is a lifelong wrestling fan as well. I witnessed the Attitude Era, the Ruthless Aggression Era, the PG Era, and the current era. I believe WWE has gotten better in the last year after the last few have been pretty lame. Thanks again for everything and keep up the great work, guys." Well, thank you so much, JR. And enjoy the show with your wife and your 5-year-old son. I've got a 5-year-old as well, and I've been thinking about indoctrinating him into the wrestling cult, and it's getting close. So you have a hell of a show to go to, my friend. You are attending a show that is going to be massive. So I'm jealous. Enjoy yourself in Tulsa, and let me know how it goes. Very cool. And thanks for the compliments. All right, guys, I know I have more. I've got like 5 or 6 more emails. I just don't have the time. So I'm going to bank those and put them in for a rainy day, meaning like Sunday, if I have time. And I'm going to get to the voicemails. And as I mentioned, guys, I have a very special voicemail coming your way. And, I actually, to be fair, I know who it's from. I don't know what it says. So this is going to be a very interesting voicemail nonetheless. So take a listen, and I will respond.
Hello, Matt. This is Sharon from Israel, and I am talking to you from my bedroom in Israel. You're hearing in the background the toy of my baby. This is the sound that I'm putting to my baby in order that he will be able to sleep. A few moments ago, we had an alarm in our city in Haifa. Haifa is a north city in Israel, and it's really weird that we have an alarm here, because it means we don't have just a thing with Gaza. We also have a thing with Lebanon and maybe Syria. And who knows, maybe we are going to maybe much more serious thing that we had in the other days. Sorry that I'm opening my recording with this kind of things. We have pretty hard days here in Israel. A lot of sadness, a lot of bad feeling, but in the background you can hear my baby, and my baby keeping me sane and great. And of course the other thing that keeping me sane and normal is wrestling, and it was pretty weird to see SmackDown in Saturday and NXT and Raw, and listening to podcasts and Fastlane and with all the other news around. So in 1 hour I see Cody and Jay also win the tag team championship, and pretty mad about that. And in the other hour I see Hamas try to attack us. So this is my reality right now. So I'm laughing, but pretty weird situation right now in my country. I don't know, people say that comparing it to the 9/11 of USA and to other extreme big bad events that we had in the human history. We will get out of this. We are Israel. We won a lot of wars. We survived a lot of bad things, so we will get out of this. I don't know how and when, but we will be better. Thanks anyway. I got to say that your words in the Raw review was really heartwarming, and I had a little bit of a tear in my eye when I heard this, that you paid attention to Israel and to me. A lot of people here are supporting Hamas and Gaza and saying that it's not politics, but after people saw what they did to us in this thing, so they understand that it is not freedom warriors. They are just very, very bad people. I hope you forgive me for getting through the 3-minute limit. Yeah. So thanks again, Matt. Love the WWE podcast family. Hearing you every day or another, and Israel will still be hard, and I still hate Cody Rhodes. Wow. No.
I've been doing this show a long time. I've been doing this mailbag for, I don't know how many years, few years. And that was emotional, Sharon, I have to say, because number one, that music in the background is the same one I had. And I'm sure if you've had kids, anybody listening, if you could hear the tune in the background, it's it's a tune that you may recognize. I must have had the same setup in the crib and all that for my kid too when they were younger. And I'm glad that you called in. I thought about it and I'm like, wow, right? Like, from my recollection, you're the only person from Israel that calls in. I know other people listen there, but you're the more consistent, contributor to the show. And yeah, I thought about, after everything that's been going on in Israel, I mean, guys, I know this is a wrestling show and we're going to get to wrestling in a second, but what's going on there. And for those of you that don't care, don't know, it's like, to say it's horrific is an understatement. Hamas, which is the terrorist organization over there, is putting out videos themselves of what they're doing. And I don't even want to talk about what they're doing on the show because I don't want to bring it down that much. But it is the worst that humanity has to offer. Like, I can't think of anything as bad as what they're doing. It is as horrific as it possibly gets. I mean, you can go look it up for yourself. Some of the images are burned into my brain of what's going on there. And if anyone, I don't know how you side with what they're doing. I don't care what your beliefs are. I don't care what your ideologies are. If you're mowing down people at a music festival or you are killing children, you are automatically the bad guy. I don't care what the purposes are or what you think is right and why you're doing it. So I'll leave it at that. But it's good to hear you, Sharon. I'm glad that you are safe. It's got to be crazy hearing alarms. Keep your kids close to you, right? They'll keep you sane. Wrestling will keep you sane, as you mentioned. And obviously, the rest of your family, I don't know. And I think you mentioned you have a wife, but I don't. I'm not sure if you mentioned any other siblings or family members that are close to you that are there. I'd imagine you do, but I don't know for sure. So if it makes you feel better, hey, call into the show every week. No, I mean, I don't need to. I'm not asking you to, but if it helps you get through what's going on over there, I actually, as you mentioned it, I was looking on a map to see where you are, and I'm awful with pronunciations. Like I'm as bad as it gets. But you said Haifa, Haifa. So that as I look at the map here, it's where the Gaza Strip is obviously where some of the worst stuff that's going on is there. And then Tel Aviv, I know there's some bad stuff going on there too. So you seem to be a little bit further away from where things are really getting bad, but still, it's got to be something it's too close for comfort incredibly close for comfort and too close. So stay safe. Keep watching wrestling. And I had to laugh. The last thing you say, like, you've got a war going on there, like a war with terrorists, literally. And you still have time to say that you hate Cody Rhodes. That made me laugh. I mean, you've got like the worst thing possible going on over there. You've got a young child and you still have time and make time to tell us you hate Cody Rhodes. You, my friend, win listener of the year. Okay. So if I could give you an award and send you an award, a plaque, and put it up on your fridge or wherever, I would do so. So great to hear you, Sharon. And I told you guys we had a special special voicemail tonight. And I know many of you may not pay attention or just hear it in passing. Oh, there's something weird going on in Israel. It's just, there's been some weird attacks. No, like, again, this is something that, I think everyone should pay attention to. And I know that the United States is considering getting involved and people are pushing for World War III and all this stuff. And hey, even though we're in the United States, most of us that listen to this show, I know of a lot of people around the world in Canada and Australia and all over the place, even the Philippines. But this could come to our front door faster than you realize. So, everyone should pay attention to what's going on here. This isn't just your run-of-the-mill, sporadic, isolated attack or like a random bombing. No. This is and has been in my entire life the worst thing I've ever seen. Worst. It is. It's horrific. But anyway, I'm not trying to bring the show down, guys. But that's with somebody calling in from Israel and giving us a firsthand account of their experience, and it's been all of our news feeds for the last couple of days. I had to address it. So, all right, thank you, Sharon. Stay safe, friend, and I will hopefully talk to you soon. Take care of that little one. All right, let's get to our next voicemail.
Podcast world, this is DJ Kuzmo back at it again on your Mailbag show. Records you live on a Wednesday morning on another chilly, very brisky Wednesday morning. And before we get to the Veer Mahan Report, I gotta talk about the epic Tuesday night that we had last night with WWE NXT and AEW Dynamite for Titles Tuesday. It was amazing. It was amazing going back and forth on Twitter, just checking out the action, catching up on both shows, and seeing the likes of Paul Heyman, of Cody Rhodes, of LA Knight, of Asuka. Oh, The Undertaker showed up. Oh my goodness, The Undertaker showed up, giving none other than Braun Breaker the last ride to close the show on NXT, and then back on AEW Dynamite. Some incredible matches as always. There was this awesome confrontation between MJF and Jay White as he was talking about be a man, dig deep, and give me back what is rightfully mine, the Triple B, baby. And all go now to the main event before the match with Edge, before the match with Mr. Copeland and Luchasaurus. My guy Christian Cage went on Edge's former group, went on Copeland's former group, the Judgment Day. He's saying, I'm not trying to be their leader, I'm being a father. Something that you can't do. And then of course he did say something about talking about his wife. Now I don't want to get into that because I know this is a PG rated show. But anyway, it was an incredible night. So whether you're an NXT fan, whether you're an AEW fan, we got our full serving of professional wrestling on a Tuesday night, and it was awesome. Now, as I'm trying to digress from such an incredible night of pro wrestling, let's get to your favorite show to come on every single week on the Mailbag. And I'm talking about the Veer Mahan Report. Now, the Veer Mahan Report took place this past Monday night on Monday Night Raw, live from Omaha, Nebraska. And yes, they are still not on TV. They are still not on the show. This year, I'm talking about of my guy, Veer Mahan, Sangha, and the modern day Maharaja. But I do have some good news. It seems like Triple H is now in full control of the creative. Hopefully, we get to see the end this year. And the second thing is that Crown Jewel is coming up. So hopefully they will get a chance to be on the card to represent India on, I believe it's the first Saturday in November. Now with that being said, this is your guy DJ Kuzmo. Have a blessed week. Be kind to one another. Stay used, my friends, and peace.
Thank you, DJ, for the Veer Mahan Report. And I would agree that, given Saudi Arabia, the geographics would bring them back. I know they just did the India show, but, Saudi Arabia, it's in the proximity, right? Like, you would think that they'd bring them back. It's time. Like, I mean, especially given the tag team division always needs depth, always needs help. And have them actually take the belts, eventually be the ones to take the belts off of Jay and Cody. makes sense to me. I think that they are to me the front runner to do that. Even though they haven't been on the show, they had a great thing going with Jinder. So I don't understand the reasons. I mean, it's just kind of crazy to me they haven't been on the show, even in the dark matches or anything. So we will see. But I appreciate the Veer Mahan reports and the Jay White and MJF and all that. I appreciate the information on that, what's going on in AEW, because it's important, because AEW and WWE have never been so intermingled since AEW has been in existence. So I appreciate that. And, take care of yourself, DJ. Hope you're staying safe. Hope you're staying healthy. And we will talk to you next week. Let's keep it going with maybe a couple more here. I'm trying to keep this under an hour. That's like my goal every week now, is to keep the show for about an hour. But let's keep going and see how many we can get.
How's it, Matt and the WWE podcast? This is Miller from the beautiful South Africa. Sure, it's been a while. It's been actually too long. Thanks for everyone of you in WWE podcast making shows for us to listen to, as well as the awesome weekly mailbags that I always listen to keep me updated to what's going on. Firstly, I'm very excited to hear that Jade Cargill will go to or is in WWE. I've never watched AEW show, but I've listened to podcasts and she sounded like really dominant. I follow her on Instagram, so she looks like freaking amazing. And I hope they carry that dominance that she had in AEW over to WWE. But in regards to the Bloodline, it's starting to feel like a spin-off to a great series, which usually fails. It actually makes me stress. It's something that I heard about, like The Office getting like a spin-off. Season 8 and 9, Dwight, he obviously had the strongest back in the world, carrying like a whole team in a series for 2 seasons. But anyway, I love the story about the Bloodline, and it gave a lot of directions, but it feels like after the Jey Uso split from the Bloodline and motivation that they had for Sami Zayn, they shouldn't put so much attention to it now, just for a bit, until if The Rock versus Roman becomes a serious possibility. The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, obviously has a massive freaking schedule. But it seems like it's something that might happen. I just feel like the Bloodline situation is getting a bit too much. But I do understand that if it's going to happen between Roman Reigns and The Rock, Roman Reigns needs to be at like every PLE. Even if he doesn't fight every PLE, at least be involved. Because there are so many people involved that might, or that can contribute to a nice storyline, like LA Knight, even Jey Uso. There's so many. But regardless of whether he has the title or not, I think that he needs to be more involved to make it more interesting. And also, the Land Down Under, Australia, getting another PLE. What is the reason for them doing PLEs there? With WWE always trying to create history, what about creating history with the first PLE on African soil, such as South Africa, who hosted a cricket, a rugby, a netball, and believe it or not, even the Football World Cup, which was, according to me, one of the best World Cups ever, and South Africa being like a amazing freaking holiday destination. I think it will be like such a milestone if they bring like one PLE to African soil. That's just a thought I had. But anyways, cheers, WWE Podcast. Keep up the good work, and we'll chat again soon.
Miller, good to hear you. Good to hear your voice. First time, long time, as they say, right? I don't think you've ever called in before. So a couple points to go through. And right now, you're going to be my final voicemail because we're at that hour mark. But that doesn't mean I'm going to ignore the rest of you guys. Those of you that still send in voicemails, I'm going to scatter them throughout the week in review this coming week on Sunday, because I just... this will be a 2-hour show if I don't, and I just don't have the time to dedicate, but I want to appreciate everyone and give everyone the time that took the time to call in and write that moment. So I will be doing maybe on the back end of the week in review. Originally, my mailbag actually started out like that, where it was part of a show and you guys wanted, no, make it its own show, but I made it its own show and now it's too big, so I have to have its own show, but also add it to a week in review. So, just look out for that, guys. So if you're sitting there going, hey, you didn't get to mine, I took the time to call or write in or call, I will get to it. Okay, I'm going to make time for it on the back end of the weekend review. All right, just have to wait a few more days. I know it's Wednesday or Thursday as you listen to this, but time, guys. Time is something I don't have a lot of. Okay, so answering your questions about the bloodline situation being too much. Yeah, and I know that it's a bit controversial, or not controversial. It's a bit contrast in what we were just talking about 6 to 12 months ago of, oh my God, the storyline's so great. This is so much fun. It's the backbone of SmackDown. And now what we see on SmackDown is SmackDown can't survive without the story. It may not be as good of a show, and the bloodline story, at least in its current form, has run its course. And that's okay. That's normal. So if anyone criticizes, well, you just loved it, you wanted more of it, and now you're telling us you don't want it. No, that's not the case. We just need, I think, outside programs. We don't need any more tussles inside of the bloodline of, well, what is Roman going to do? Is he going to punish Jimmy? Is Jimmy a part of the bloodline? That's no one. I shouldn't say nobody. The interest level of that is not there. The interest level is Roman defending his effing belt against outside opponents. Enough. Okay. As I've said, Roman doesn't need to be on every show, but he needs to be at every PLE, whether he's interfering or he's in a match. He's got too many opponents and too many things to wrap up. So yeah. Now, Jade Cargill agreed. If you haven't seen her work, I would encourage you to just go on YouTube or something and check out her work on YouTube, Jade Cargill versus whoever, right? And you'll be able to see her in the ring. She's pretty good. I've seen her matches. She's not a Charlotte or a Becky Lynch or, even back in the day, Sasha Banks. She's not any of those 4 horsewomen in terms of match quality, but her body type's different. She's a powerhouse of a woman. My God, she looks like not even $1 million, like $1 billion. That doesn't sound as good. It sounds cheesy. She looks great, is what I'm saying. She does. And they've got big plans for her. I can't remember another signing that they've made ever that has more hype behind it than this one. And that's saying something. Creating, the PLE in Africa. Yeah, I have no problem with that. Now, WWE is a business first and foremost. They're a for-profit organization. They have a market and research department. Clearly, they have determined that Australia is a market that they can grow into, and that Africa is not, at least not as big of a potential boom as Australia is. They are trying to go global in a way that they haven't before. Think about this. They had from the PLE right after WrestleMania up until SummerSlam, every event was not in the United States. So they are making a concerted effort to go to these countries. They have a yearly or a biannual agreement with Saudi Arabia. They went to how many different countries this year? They went to Clash at the Castle, right? in Wales. They've gone to, as you said, Australia. Now they're going back to Australia. They went to Canada for Elimination Chamber. Puerto Rico for Extreme Rules. And the list goes on. So they're making a concerted effort. And I honestly don't know if they'll get to South Africa for a PLE. They go by numbers. They go by dollars and cents. And they go by what is a good global strategic brand strategy. Not to minimize you guys. There's a lot of wrestling fans in your area. I know there are, because I see some of them listening even to this show. Now, I'm not exactly a barometer of how many WWE fans there are as a whole, but there's clearly demand where you are. And according to WWE's market and research team, it seems as if your demand is not as high as others. That's all it is. It's dollars and cents. I wouldn't take it personally. It's money. It comes down to money. Like so many things, sadly, in this world. Show me the money. That's what it is. Now, that is not to say they'll never come there. I'm sure they will at some point, hopefully in your life. So there's also logistics. I don't know in your area if there are, I've never been there. So I'm as ignorant as it comes when it comes to your area specifically of where they could actually put the show on and everything else. I would imagine, though, that if the World Cup has traveled through there, that there are hotels and potential revenue streams for other businesses to feed off of the PLE, all that kind of stuff. Like, I would imagine they have all the resources and infrastructure in place to support a PLE, I would think. So I don't know, but keep your hopes up. Thank you, Miller. Thank you, everybody. Again, those of you that did not get your email or voicemail on the show, no worries. You just have to wait a few days. Let me catch my breath. I know you guys are hammering me with this stuff, but it's good. I have no problem with it, and I want to give you guys time to get your voice on the show. That'll be coming Sunday. If you didn't get on the show, just be a little patient. Sunday on the Mailbag, part 2, really. You'll be kind of integrated into the weekend review. So, all right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. As always, you can go to patreon.com/WWE podcast to join the Patreon family. Get everything ad-free, exclusive shows, and video once or twice a week, as well as Discord server. So check us out there, or WWEpodcast.com. And until next time, guys, take care.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.